Good afternoon. My name is Gillian Balaban, and I am Governance and Board Liaison at GRI. Welcome to this meeting of the Global Sustainability Standards Board, known by its acronym, the GSSB, held on 18 September 2025. This virtual meeting is being hosted from Amsterdam, the Netherlands. Please note that all public GSSB meetings are being recorded, and you can find the audio recording on the GSSB meeting webpage, along with the high-level summaries of previous GSSB meetings. Present from the GRI Secretariat today are Bastien Buck, Chief of Standards, Harold Powells, Director Standards, and Matthew Dunn, Manager Standards. We will now start with a roll call. Anna Nefredova. I think Anna will join in a few minutes. Anne Lindsay.
Present.
Thank you. Charles Chu.
Present.
Chalandra De Silva.
Present.
Deborah Ing.
Present.
Felipe Martinez Rodriguez.
Present.
Galia Tsunkova.
Present.
Julia Genuardi. I think Julia will also join in a few minutes. Jeff Robertson.
Present.
Rebecca Coriat.
Present.
Tomu Majiba. Tomu, we can't hear you. Tomu is on the line. Yan Dong.
Also on mute.
Yan, can you hear us? Oh, she's written present. Susanna Muscat-Gorska.
Present.
Thank you. And GSSB
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, Tomu, thank you.
Okay, present. Yeah.
Thank you. And GSSB Chair Carol Adams.
Present.
Thank you, everyone. GSSB member Igazuma Okoroba sent her apologies. I'll now hand over to the Chair, Carol Adams, to open the meeting.
Welcome, everybody. Nice to see you all, and thank you, Gillian. We will get straight into the agenda. We have quite a bit to get through. And the first item is the approval of the draft summary of the meeting that we had in July. Can I take it that we can approve that summary? Yes, I'm here seeing shaking heads. Thank you. Okay, that summary is approved. And then if we could review the action points, does anybody want to raise anything on the action points? Bastien, was there anything you wanted to say on progress of any of these action points?
No, I think the one thing to say is that we've concluded the work on quite a number of them, and this is now the most recent list, but no further update.
Okay, thank you. And then there are no policy submissions, so we can move on then to approval of proposed members to the pollution working group. Is anybody speaking to this? No. Okay, we have the paper there. We have the details there. Does anybody want to raise any comments? Seeing no hands, we'll take this as approved. And hello, Anna. Nice to see you. I see you have joined us.
My apologies for being late.
No worries. Okay, so that's approved, and we then move on to the quarterly updates of the projects. Bastien.
Yes, we shared the item. I don't think I have any additional information for GSSB members at this stage. Maybe just one explanation where we're signaling that one of the deliverables is delayed. That is the mapping with the colleagues of the CDP that we've been preparing. So the technical work has been performed. It is the delay in what we have mutually agreed that we're looking for a date in the calendar where the organizations can maximize the public recognition for this work, and in the run up to the COP and all of that. This seems to be an opportune moment to do that. So we're slightly delayed in making it publicly available, but the technical work has been performed.
Okay, thank you. So then we move on to the substantial items, the project on economic impacts. And we have discussed this before in a previous meeting. We have also been commenting on updated drafts on file stage. I believe some amendments have since been made to the proposed standard for exposure, but I'm going to pass over to Matthew to explain what's happened with all those comments that GSSB members made at the last meeting and also subsequent to that on file stage. Welcome, Matthew.
Great, thanks, Carol, and good day to GSSB members. So, yeah, as you rightly say, Carol, I'd like to just chat through the exposure draft for the revised topic standard on economic performance today for approval. Thank you all very much, I think, for all your thoughtful comments and questions in final stage. So we've tried to address each of them in detail, and any outstanding ones which we received after we submitted the slide to the GSSB, we will of course be addressing right after this meeting as well. So we can go to the next slide, please, Jill. So at the time of sharing these slides with the GSSB, we had received 27 comments, most of which were content related or technical comments, while the remainder were we categorized as editorial. The comments we believe can and will be implemented prior to the PCP. So we can move on to the next slide. We will be going through some of the key issues raised by the GSSB in final stage. So you will recall in our previous session, we had discussed, as Carol mentioned, GSSB feedback on this draft, which we have in the interim sought to address. So what I'll do is I'll briefly go through some of the comments that we've received previously, as well as in the current revision, and the actions taken to address them. So firstly, the points raised in the previous tranche of comments was around greater clarity needed on the proposed introduction of a new topic management disclosure, so EP1 in the exposure draft. There were a number of constructive suggestions around how the disclosure could be further improved by providing greater detail to support organizations in reporting against it more effectively and really understanding some of the rationale behind the new requirements that we'd included. We also previously reported receiving comments recommending the inclusion of additional social financial indicators. This is EP3, that were linked to monetary flows for things like local communities and environmental protection. So some GSSB members felt that the additional indicators would be also meaningful for disclosure and for us to consider these. And then finally, there were several comments highlighting that financial accounting terminology such as revenue could be further clarified to ensure closer alignment with definitions and understanding that accounting practitioners would typically be familiar with. So in response to these three kind of groups of comments that we've received, firstly, within the guidance, we have included additional text, which is, we believe, a lot clearer in directing organizations on how they are expected to report against certain requirements, as well as additional examples to provide greater clarity and understanding for reporters. So this was especially done in disclosures EP1 and EP3, where we received the most feedback from GSSB members on the need for rationale around some of these disclosures. We've also updated the PCP survey questionnaire to include questions around the addition of these new SFIs that were recommended by GSSP members. So we had taken this back to our working group to discuss, and the working group decided that at present they were satisfied with the list of indicators that we currently had within the EP3 disclosure, but that it was definitely worth getting stakeholder feedback on the additional indicators that GSSB members proposed. So you'll find in file stage, these have been included in the PCP survey questionnaire for testing, and the working group mentioned that should we get strong indication that these are relevant and would be meaningful to include, then that's something that we could look to discuss further post PCP. And then finally, as per recommendations from the GSSB members and in consultation with working group members as well, we've proposed updated definitions for the guidance in mainly EP1 and EP2. And I believe we are now in closer agreement when it comes to terminology used, and that this will, I think, ensure better alignment with financial accounting terminology that accountants are able to use and relate to. So this is specifically speaking to the definition of revenue, which is now, we believe, much closer aligned with authoritative instruments such as the IFRS. And so, yeah, definitely want to thank input from Carol, Charles, and Chilendra on these points particularly. I thought it was quite useful, and we believe we have a better set of guidance because of that. So these are the main changes I think that we wanted to raise today and speak to. The others, of course, included within the draft on file stage and can be reviewed by GSSB members. So I'll stop there, Carol, and open up for any questions.
Thank you, Matthew. Chilendra.
Thanks, Carol. Matthew, on the SFI indicator, okay, the reason I think I brought out the need for disclosure of the CSR or the community engagement, the amounts or the investments was because that is already a line item in the monetary flows, right? Now, when you leave this out, it kind of creates a kind of a void as to why a certain element of that list is now suddenly out. And that to me doesn't give a sense of comprehensiveness to the standard. And that's why I would like probably to see it. And I strongly advocate that it goes into it without even the PCP, because I'm not too sure as to what extent that would be seen in the public comment period. So I just want to find out how do we go back to the working group? How do we explain to them that, look, this has a void in that list of items we talk about in EP1, and then suddenly in EP3 it's not there.
Yeah. No, thanks, Chilendra. I understand. I think it was, and you may recall the discussions, I think it was really a matter of trying to prioritize certain group members had a list of potential indicators here that could be used. And as a preliminary step, we wanted to try and narrow these down for the sake of making the standard, I think, accessible and feasible to report against, while being open to, of course, amending these as we receive feedback. But indeed, I mean, if this is something that you feel strongly about, we could perhaps share a poll with the working group members and ask them if this is something that we can make the change, because I think it's quite clear how the indicator would look. So it would, I think, be feasible. But I understand your point.
Yeah,
as well.
it's just to get the comprehensiveness in, Matthew, nothing else.
Yeah.
Thank you. Tomu.
Hi, Matthew, and thank you so much for your hard work. And apologies for making a very last-minute comment into the file stage. And I yet conquer this title, economic performance, and this creates, like too wide a terminology, but also creating confusion, about among us and talking about more wider social impact or impact on national economy. So that my proposal is more, this is talking about distribution of the, like wealth or, monetary flows and what you said. And that's maybe more precise title and everyone can understand what this standard is talking about. And the second point is EPC and the social financial indicators listing lots of disclosure items. So that would be helpful to create a template table and which can standardize disclosure among reporters, like other financial accounting.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tomu. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Maybe before you respond, Matthew, if I could add to that, because there was some discussion in the comments around economic impacts and economic performance, and it was explained in terms of us having the three pillars of economic impact, social and environmental impact. But we don't have a standard, for example, for economic performance or social performance. So I'm still having trouble getting my head around this title of economic performance when we're talking about when our work is around impacts as well.
Yeah, no, thanks, Carol. Understood. I mean, and also just to Tomu's point, yeah. So I think this is something, Tomu, that we had tested with the working group several times, and we didn't receive any strong push to change the title. Although, yeah, I mean, as I said, we had asked them about this. But I do see your argument that something like monetary flows may be more appropriate. So I don't think this is something that we are against. It just hasn't been something that has been raised as a priority or something urgent by the working group. But I do think, given a lot of the standard does speak to monetary flows generated and distributed, that may be something we can also push the working group on a bit further. Yeah, I think, Carol, to your point, so this title is what existed before, and we've continued with it, as I said, because the working group did not push for a change to something like economic impact. I mean, we could again take it back to them and see whether something like Tom suggested would be more appropriate. But at this stage, that's the reason why it remains as it was in the existing standard.
Yeah, so when we talk about the social impact standards, the environmental impacts standards, they're on particular topics like equal opportunities, biodiversity, climate change, and so on. So they're not around performance. So this doesn't sit well for me within the sort of package of standards.
Sure. Okay. No, understood. I mean, I can see, yeah, we don't have anything else called performance in the title, but I'm not sure that necessarily would preclude the use of it as a topic title just because it's perhaps not included in other titles. I mean, I feel in the background on the topic, we do try and clearly define what this means. So it is clearly set out. Whether it's the most appropriate one is perhaps, yeah, I agree, the question. But yeah, it's as I said, it's something that we've continued with because we got the feedback from the working group that it was still fine. But yeah, happy to discuss further.
Yeah, Harold has put a note in the chat which doesn't really clarify it for me either. But Tomu, you wanted to
Yeah,
come
let
back?
me add the point. It's like for the climate change standards, and then we agreed to change the title among the GSSB members, and we are going back to the working group. I understand. So that like titles and something kind of layout and appearance. It's not directly changing the disclosure item itself. Then I would think we can decide among GSSB and not kind of be consulting with the working group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, from our side, definitely happy to take back any strong recommendation from the GSSB to the working group for sure. I don't think that's an issue, Tom. Yeah.
Does anybody else have a view on this? I think maybe Matthew, if you could go back to the working group and see if they can suggest a title that it's clear it's about impacts. But I think this perhaps shouldn't delay it at this point. I mean, we could ask about the title in the questionnaire, but it's probably not a reason for delaying it. We can come back to the title perhaps at a later date.
Sure, yeah, I can definitely do that, Carol.
There's no other comments from GSSB members at this stage on that. So please do continue, Matthew, and welcome to Julia.
Welcome.
Sorry, Carol, was that a question at me?
Yes. Did you have anything else to add?
No. So not for this standard, Carol. The remainder of the responses are in final stage to all the comments. Yeah.
Okay. So are there other responses that you will be still making? Changes that you will still be making before the exposure draft goes out?
Indeed, yeah. So all the responses that we proposed in file stage to the comments from GSSB members, those are the changes that will be made in the draft, that we're proposing to be made in the draft, and these will be done before the PCP kicks off. So we have to upload the standard to the website so that the draft is live before the PCP kicks off. So that will happen before then, for sure.
Okay, great. So I think what we want to get from the consultation process or from the technical working group or both is some suggestions around titles that fit with the notion of impacts and our standards being about the impacts of organizations. That make it clear that this is intended to be about impacts.
Yeah, understood.
Okay. And I think everybody's agreed, looking at some of the messages that we're seeing in the chat, that this shouldn't delay the exposure draft going out. So there is a question there now as to whether we approve the exposure draft for release and public comment. Is there any dissent? No dissent and some nods and thumbs up. So we'll take this as approved. Thank you. And well done, Matthew, for all the work on this. This is a tricky one, I think.
Thanks, Carol.
And so if we could move on.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah. I will then continue to the second tranche of standards. So just a quick note before going through the comments that we received from this group of standards. So following discussions that we had internally with both internally and with our working group, we have proposed a change to the titles of the existing GRI 205 and 206 standards so that they use simpler, more neutral terms like corruption and competition instead of action words like anti-corruption and anti-competitive behavior. And the idea here was to keep, or at least start a process of developing titles that follow a consistent pattern across the GRI standards, that make them clearer, and that always seek to align with how the topics are described in international authoritative frameworks, such as the OECD M&E guidelines, for example. So that's just something to note for GSSB members as we go through the standards themselves. We can move to the next slide, please, Joe. So for the corruption standard, the exposure draft, we've received 10 comments. The majority of these, again, were content-related or technical comments, while 3 were categorized as editorial. We can go to the next slide, please, Joel. If we go through one of the first comments, so this was a comment by the GSSB that suggested including information on how organizations use the ERM function for corruption, risk assessment, and prevention. So this was relating to a topic management disclosure that we had included in the draft as a new disclosure. So ERM speaks to enterprise risk management, and this is generally understood as an organization-wide system for identifying, assessing, managing, and monitoring risks that could affect the organization's ability to achieve its objectives. And it also goes some way to kind of ensuring that these risks are formally reviewed and managed within the organization's risk framework. So this was a relevant comment, we thought, because the existing requirement, Corruption Core 1A, it already requires organizations to describe the process for identifying high-risk functions or areas, business functions within an organization and its business partners, as well as the criteria used to do so. So we believe that the existing requirement would accommodate reporting on an organization's use of an ERM framework. And our proposal, therefore, was to rather make this explicit as part of an amendment to the guidance in the form of a recommendation or as a should statement for the organization to report whether they assess corruption risk as part of an ERM framework or other such functions. So this does not change the core requirement, but merely strengthens, we believe, the guidance and shows stakeholders how this corruption risk is managed across the organization. We can move to the next slide, please, Joe. So the second set of comments received suggested that certain phrases and examples used in the background section of the standard could be further included throughout the standard. So similarly, the comments noted some examples of corruption impacts required further explanation, or at least reporters could benefit from having a bit more context behind some of these terms. So in response, what we've done is that we've proposed further explanation of these terms, as you can see here, and examples within the guidance. So one case of this is we are including digital corruption as an example in guidance for corruption 1C, and have clarified the definition of corruption risk in the guidance of corruption 1A. So these updates are really just aimed to improve clarity and ensure that the examples that we do use in the guidance are practical and provide a relevant basis for organizations to be able to report against them. So I think those are just two of the main takeaways for us that we thought would be good to highlight here. But the remainder, of course, have been addressed within the file stage document. We can move to the next slide, please, Joe. or Carol, sorry, that's it from me.
Okay, thank you. Are there any comments or questions on this? Okay, so can I ask then whether we can approve this?
Sorry, could I
Sure.
I couldn't find the little
Okay.
the little icon with the hand. Can I just mention one thing, because I had this thought in the last moment that maybe it would be also useful to have a recommendation for the companies to report on the whistleblower protection in the context of the anti-corruption framework.
I think, yeah, it's a good point you raise, Susanna. It's something that was also flagged by Chulendra in the competition standard, actually. So I think you're speaking about grievance mechanisms and protections, right? So something similar to that. Yeah, so we'll chat about it in the competition approval. But indeed, we do cover this within GRI 2. So under disclosure 225, processes to remediate negative impacts, and 226, mechanisms for seeking advice and raising concerns. And so because it was there, the working group didn't raise it as something that needed to be added in here as well. But what we suggested for the competition standard is that this is something we could make reference to very clearly in the guidance, so that organizations, if they have reported it there, then they don't need to do so again here. But I think you're referring to something similar, so that's how we had addressed it in the competition standard.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So can I ask whether we are happy to approve this standard for exposure? I see no dissent. And so we'll take this as approved, this exposure draft. Thank you again.
I see a hand from Anne. Carol, I think.
Oh, sorry, I thought that.
I think all these shooting hands around, it's difficult sometimes to see the raised one. I just wanted to say I'm very happy to approve it with the suggestion that Susanna's just made and Matthew's just followed up on, with a kind of a consistent approach on whistleblowing, because otherwise I think we're going to do corruption after we've approved this one. But that's very much, I'm understanding that's with recognising that too in the approval now.
Okay. Thank you for making that clarification. Everybody happy with that? Okay, we'll take that as approved, subject to giving some thought to that and how to deal with it. Thank you. So moving on.
Yes, thanks, Jill. Thanks, Carol. So we move on to the competition exposure draft. As you can see here, we've received, at the time of submission to the GSSB of these slides, 4 comments. Again, the majority were content related, only had one categorized as editorial. We can move to the next slide, please, Jill. So indeed, this was the one I was referring to in response to Susanna's question. And the comment here was really about should we ask the procedure for handling grievances relating to anti-competitive behavior. So I think this the rationale is that stakeholders may raise concerns or raise issues about perceived anti-competitive practices. These type of mechanisms would allow organizations to address these before they escalate to competition watchdogs, for example. So in response, we note that this was something that we did flag with the working group. But as I mentioned to Susanna, it's something that we did observe already within GRI 2. However, we could, in a similar way to the corruption standard, make this link stronger, I think, by making a clear reference to information that already is there and integrating it within our topic management disclosures. So we do acknowledge that that may also be a gap, and it's just about whether it would be covered sufficiently at GRI 2, 225 and 226. But this is what we are kind of recommending, and we can also look into that a bit more to see if we could strengthen that in the guidance. Yeah, that was the main comment that we received for the competition disclosure draft. Exposure draft, sorry. We can move to the next slide, please, John.
Are there any comments that proposed change there? Is everybody happy with that? Okay. Any comments, any further comments on this exposure draft and competition? Susanna. Susanna, did you want to say something? No? Chalendra.
I think just as much as you refer GRI 2, 25 and 26, do we need to also refer 3-3 because the management approach would probably include the whistleblowing policies to how we manage the impacts of why it's important. So maybe if you're linking up to 225 and 226, we might also want to link up 3.3 as well.
Indeed, thanks, Shalendra. Yeah, good point. I mean, this is something that is included within our boilerplate text for our standards, but we can always make this stronger in the guidance itself. So make that direct connection. Yeah, that's fair.
Thank you. So let's move on then to the next slide. And can I take it that we can approve this exposure draft on competition? Yes, we can. Thank you. No dissent there. Thank you very much. So moving on.
Great. Thanks, Carol. Thanks, Joel. So we move on to the public policy exposure draft. So this is GRI 415, and you can see here that we received 10 comments at the time of submission to the GSSB. Again, most technical or content related, and one editorial comment. Can move to the next slide, please, Joel. So yeah, we received several comments that relate to disclosure PP 1. So this is a new topic management disclosure which we've included in the exposure draft for organizations to report on their public policy position. And the comments were specifically directed at the guidance, with proposals including, firstly, the addition of text that could help to communicate to organizations that they should consider all relevant policy areas where they contribute to or engage in around public policy. So really just ensuring that they know that the scope is quite broad. So not only thinking about, globally relevant policy areas such as climate change or fair wages, for example, but also industry-specific policy issues, for example. And then other comments recommended updating the guidance within the same requirement to provide a more diverse set of examples of policy areas for organizations, just so that they were clear that I think we had made some of the policy examples quite climate related. And I think that just the GSSB members wanted this to be a bit more representative and diverse. So in terms of responding to these comments, you can see below, the first bullet seeks to expand the guidance in terms of explaining more clearly to organizations how to think about this rationale behind disclosure of certain policy issues and what may be relevant to them. And the second really includes proposals of additional examples of policy issues which an organization may seek to contribute or influence. So these were some of the main issues provided here, and I think, yeah, again, just acknowledging the inputs from Rebecca, Deborah, and Chalendra, really useful, I think, around this topic specifically. So we can move to the next slide, please, Jill.
Okay, any comments on this exposure draft on public policy? Okay, can I take it that we can approve this exposure draft? Tomu?
Yeah, this is what Carol also said. It's this PP1B3 things. It's like, asking the difference between what you have said and what you have done. I don't think anyone would report about this. And, silly to say, and, we are doing the different from what we are saying, committed to. So this is something, external parties and stakeholders should judge, and to say or complain about this, it's, something we can expect, and reporters report about this.
Sorry, Samu, I didn't catch the first. Which one are you referring to?
The PP1B3.
B3. Okay.
Report
Yes.
any difference between its public policy position and its publicly stated policy and commitments.
Yeah, understood. And you're saying that you don't expect reporters will be able to report this or be willing to report this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pushing a little bit, but I mean, we had these discussions around some of the key issues here when it comes to lobbying and influence that a really central concern is that you have organizations saying one thing and doing the other. And I think throughout the standard, we try and establish whether there's consistency in terms of what organizations' actions are and then what they proclaim they are supporting or lobbying, trying to influence. Yeah, whether this is something that they're willing to report, several members from the working group felt that it is important to include and give them the opportunity to acknowledge this without seeking to be punitive in any way. So we have tried to adapt the standard from the previous version, where it comes across a lot more neutral, rather than trying to catch organizations out, which is, I think, from some of the feedback we received from stakeholder engagement or concern around topics like corruption and anti-competitive behavior, in that, yeah, companies are very wary around selling themselves short or acknowledge this may not be responded to by all organizations, but it was felt that it's still an important requirement to include, and hopefully the disclosure follows suit.
Thank you. Anne.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the work that's gone into this standard. I suppose just to follow up, I think although it will indeed be interesting to see how organisations report against this, I think this is the key question to be asking if we're thinking about their impact on public policy. So I do think it is important to include it and to keep it in, and then I think a future kind of looking at what kind of information is being actually reported will be interesting. But obviously there are also cases where an organisation has publicly changed its position. So, I think it is important to include it, even though it will be a challenge.
Thanks, Anne.
Thank you. And we'll see what others think when we go through the consultation process. Can I ask if we are happy to approve this exposure draft? Okay, we will take that as approved. Lots of nods. Thank you all for your input in the two meetings where we've discussed these, but also on file stage. There's been a lot of interaction with these exposure drafts. Thank you. And thank you to Matthew for very diligently responding to all the comments that you have received and going back to the technical working group in between the two meetings where we've discussed it. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you to the working group, to the GSSB, apologies. I just have one final slide just to update you all on our proposed timelines regarding the PCPs. So we will kick off the PCP, of course, following the update to the draft itself for the economic performance standard on the 29th of September, which is the date that we've slated for the official opening of the PCP, and it will run until the 17th of December. Our plan is to kick off with 2 global webinars on the 14th of October and the 15th of October, and we already have a number of regional webinars and events planned for the standard. And then we will kick off a separate PCP following the conclusion of the first one for phase 2. So this includes the drafts on corruption, competition, and public policy around mid-January, so just after the Christmas period. Yeah, again, it will follow a very similar format, but it does mean that we have a bit of time to still prepare for this one and take some of the lessons that we've learned around the economic performance standard into the second phase PCP. But that's just a very brief overview for you all, so that you have an idea of what's coming up.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Carol.
So let's move on to any other business. Is there any other business for the public session? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public session, and we do have a few things to discuss in the private session. Thank you.